future's always difficult to predict. Doubly so now. We don't know, because of the political uncertainty, what's going to happen in the next day, never mind the next weeks, month, years, and so forth. You've seen across the industry the numbers have been negative in terms of production volumes are down. Registrations aren't too bad. I mean, we're running at about 2.3, 2.4 million vehicles a year in new registrations, and historically that's relatively high levels. The big concern for us as a manufacturer is investment. Investment is effectively stalled. When that happens, that means you're not investing in plant and machinery just to maintain your competitors, your productivity. That comes to bite you in the longer term. That's why we need an end to some of this uncertainty, so the industry can look more confidently about the future.
I think there's a lot of people will sort of take the view, well, it's only about cars. Well, it's a bit more than that. This is a 80-odd billion pound annual industry, employing nearly 1 million people. So it's a major component part of the UK GDP.
Absolutely. The UK car industry, as it rightly say, employs nigh on 1 million people, represents £82 billion contribution to the economy. We're the leading sector for exporting goods. Our contribution to the economy matters, but it also matters to people's livelihoods. So at the moment, there's huge uncertainty. We've seen devastating news coming out of Swindon, not just because of Brexit, but that's been one of the contributory factors. When it's such an important industry, which is totally integrated into the European and indeed the global industry, anything that changes the equilibrium we have, the way we trade, threatens the very existence of the industry. Now, we want to make sure that this industry prospers. The fundamentals are strong, very highly skilled workforce, engineering excellence, and you see today brands that are world famous and in demand. We need to keep them, we need to make them grow. Best way to do that is end this uncertainty, and politicians are going to have to compromise.
One of the things that caught my eye earlier in your presentation was the number of truck movements on a daily basis that are entirely accounted for by moving parts, engines, gearboxes and other parts backwards and forwards across Europe for just-in-time production.
Yeah, 1,100 trucks a day across the channel, bringing parts just in time, just in sequence. They flow seamlessly, frictionlessly through the borders and go straight, not to a warehouse, they go straight to line side. That is the efficiency which is built into the operation of the industry. So any change that puts a degree of friction, delay, will undermine that efficiency. And as soon as you start doing that, you become less competitive. So when you want to attract the next round of investment and you're always competing with someone else, it makes it that much harder. That's why we need to make sure, whatever our future relationship is when we leave Europe, frictionless trade is at its heart.
The other thing that caught my eye, statistics-wise, was the fact that there's a very similar number of engines exported from this country annually to those imported annually, and I think that just illustrates what all those trucks are doing.
Yeah, I mean, we make over 2.5 million engines a year. Many more engines than we make cars, but that's because we've this heritage of engineering excellence. I mean, we're world renowned for excellence in internal combustion engines. The industry is changing. It's moving to more plug-in hybrids, electrification. The industry needs to move with it, but always remember, it is a global industry. So what we're about is trying to make sure people still look favourably on the UK because of the inherent strengths that we have here.
I mean, very clearly the alternative technologies, the hybrids of various forms and the electrics and even the fuel cells and hydrogen-powered cars are the way we've got to go. Now, what does the government need to do to stimulate? Because we're still very slow on the uptake of that sort of car.
Yeah, the entire industry globally is moving to ultimately zero-emission motoring. Now, it's quite competitive. Every country wants to get there as quickly as possible. The industry wants to get there. It's invested in pure electric vehicles, in plug-in electric, hydrogen even. You can invest in those technologies, but you will not get a return until they're mainstream, because it's a volume business. So the industry is committed to this journey, and it needs to make sure that these vehicles' demand increases. At the moment, customers say, well, we like the idea, but concerns about infrastructure. It's still often a very expensive technology, so government incentives, long-term commitment to incentives is important. And it is about reassuring customers that these vehicles are going to be around for a long time, and that they're a sensible investment which will deliver for the environment as well as their own wallets.
We haven't seen that governmental support, though, develop. There was an initial enthusiasm a few years ago. There was government money in there, government support, and that seems to be waning, and that's not going to help people to make those decisions, particularly if you then tell the nation that they won't be able to drive diesel cars shortly. That's actually depressed a large part of the industry and switched people back to petrol.
Yeah, there's been a lot of uncertainty about the future of diesel, but the diesel vehicles that are being put on the market now and for the past 2 years are exempt from any of the proposed chargings in major cities. Yes, we need to improve air quality in our cities, and we need to do that quickly. Best way of doing it is getting, I would obviously say this, more new vehicles on the roads, because they're immensely cleaner than the ones that they replace. Now, in terms of managing that shift, we need the environmental issues. It's been interesting over the past few weeks, coming much more to the fore with protests in London, various speeches. The Committee on Climate Change produced a report. Basically, that report says, it's independent advisor to government, it says, yes, the UK can become net zero, but the challenge is to government to make some very tough decisions, maybe costly decisions, to incentivise people, individuals, consumers, businesses to make the transition in terms of cars, in terms of domestic, in terms of industrial. It won't come cheap, but ultimately that is the direction we're going. It's just a question of pace.